Hi guys, today we'll be doing lesson 4. It's named Don't Touch Me. So what you're going to want to do first is make sure to install the all the hardware, pretty much the basic framework as per lesson 1. And if you have already completed the installation, just keep it as is. We're going to want to make sure begin by gathering all the necessary parts and materials. So these parts will pretty much be the ultrasonic sensor, the servo motor, the mount holder for the ultrasonic sensor, the buzzer sensor module, and the 20-pin 15 centimeter female to female cable. So the first step is going to be installing the servo motor at the front of the car chassis with two pieces of M2.2 times 8 self-taping screws. What I had to do for this part was pretty much remove the sensor from the previous lesson, just due to the fact that for the screws to be able to taper, they would have to be installed from the bottom and create the grip onto the chassis with the sensor. Here you will see that I'm just trying to get the screws out of the bag where all the screws are pretty much together, just to make sure that I'm using the right ones. I double check the tag. And like I said, you're going to need to remove the RO tracking sensor. It's pretty much necessary to screw from the bottom. It's kind of tricky to install it any other way. It's just not possible in this case. So once you have the servo motor installed, you're going to want to reinstall the IR tracking sensor. Just make sure to connect everything as how it was before. Check all your proper connections. You don't want to have anything facing the wrong way. Also remember not to provide too much tensions on the screws, just the necessary amount. So next we're going to want to install the ultrasonic module to mount holder with 4 pieces of 1.58 screws and M1.5 nuts. Now, installation for this can be fairly tricky just due to the fact that they are very small pieces that you're working with. If you have the proper tools, then you're more than welcome to use them. Obviously, they're going to be very handy and helpful. In this case, I didn't have the tools, so I had to, I dropped them a few times, but thankfully I was able to find them. You're gonna want to use just some pliers small enough and not too long or thick that it could damage the board itself or the sensor itself. Just make sure to use them to provide the tension to the other end. Use a hex screw to apply the torque while holding the nut. So you're gonna want to make sure to work in an area where you won't lose any nuts or bolts. If dropped by accident, just like I mentioned before, I dropped them a few times. As you can see here, I dropped the sensor by accident. Thankfully, it was okay. Like I said, there's a carpet in the bottom. Make sure you're working in an environment that's pretty much closed. Nothing could go under the couches or anything like that. Once we have completed this, we're going to move on to installing the mount holder for ultrasonic module onto the servo motor with M2.2 times 4 self-taping screws. It's just going to be one. You're going to pretty much need it to place the sensor onto the motor itself. Uh, yeah. Next step that we're going to check once we're done with this is once you begin the actual testing, you will notice that it might be twisting a little bit once you turn on the switch to begin the lesson. If this happens, then you're going to go ahead and go into troubleshooting method where you pretty much are going to detach it and then reinstall. So now the next part is installing the buzzer module onto the car chassis with one piece of M3 plastic screw, M3 plastic pillars, and M3 plastic nuts. These are the same ones that you have used in the previous lessons. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to connecting the SG90 servo motor to the OSOYOO motor shield. Remember our version is the 1.0 version. Make sure to use the graphs that are provided to you in the online tutorial link. This will obviously aid you in knowing where to actually install, because I know it's not that visible in this case in the video. So yeah, just make sure to use the diagrams. Next, we will do the same process connecting the ultrasonic module with the OSOYOO motor shield version 1.0. And now we will connect the actual buzzer module with the OSOYOO motor shield 1.0 as well. Once we have everything good to go, just make sure to check the software installation and testing, and you should be all done.